locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke loves wrestling.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back. Welcome back to another wonderful edition of the Devon and the Duke podcast. This is a limited edition series hosted by your main man, Duke Loves Wrestling, and of course, the Hall of Famer, the man that is ushering in Christmas. He is so excited that Mariah Carey is going to be filling the airwaves for the foreseeable future for this holiday season. Mr. Devon Dudley, what's going on there, brother?
Hey, how you doing now? What are you talking about, Mariah Carey? I've heard something about her. What do you mean, Mariah Carey?
You know this is the time of year where Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You." You already know that's the song to play. I know you can jam
Right.
into that. Come on now.
No. You hear it a lot. I'll give you that. You hear that song a lot. It's like in the African American community, Chris Brown's song, "This Christmas."
Oh yeah.
It's played throughout just about every African American household everywhere.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, obviously these are Christmas standards that these artists are remaking, but still their versions become timeless in their own right. What's your favorite Christmas song overall?
I think the Chris Brown one is definitely one. I like Mariah, but there was this was going back maybe 2003, 2004 here in Melbourne at the King Center. There was a Vanessa Williams came to
Oof.
Melbourne, Florida.
Yeah.
And, I was always a big fan of hers, not because of the Playboy issue. I think I was like 10 or 12, so I never really saw it. But she came and she did a little concert, and I didn't really know. I knew a couple of songs back in the 80s that she did that really stood out, but I didn't know how big of a singer Vanessa was. And I heard her and I was like taken back by it. I was like, wow. Her voice was amazing.
Yeah. She's one of the most talented people we've ever had the pleasure of witnessing. And I'm going to tell you right now, and my lady knows this, and I know Vanessa's a few years older than me, but man, if I ever had a pass, Vanessa Williams, I'm telling you right now, okay, I adore that lady. She is just wonderful and such a nice person too. But you remember when she made Brian McKnight famous, right?
Say it again?
She made Brian McKnight famous. Remember that MTV Unplugged
Yes.
show? And what was the name? Was it Love Hurts? Was the name of that song?
I think it was Love Hurts.
Love Hurts, and
Yes.
it was live. It was it was live, and they sang that together. That became a big hit. But that launched the career of Brian McKnight, right?
Yeah, actually, yes. But Brian McKnight he had a selective few R&B hits back in the 90s that really took him to stardom. I mean, it was great 'cause I remember buying a couple of his albums
Back at One
back in one
and
point.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Hmm.
But that Love Hurts, that was the first
Love
one.
Hurts, yeah.
That was the first one, and that took him, and he's still making money off of that to this day.
I think all of it, if they have the right managers
Yes.
that basically give them the credit. I mean, you'd be surprised. You get 3 to 4 cents on an album every time a song every time it's played. You think 3 to 4 cents, that's nothing, but it's something.
Yeah, it's
People
true.
don't realize how much money that is. To get 3 to 4 cents on an album. And what hurt me, not to just get off the subject, but George Clooney. I mean, not George Clooney, excuse me.
Clinton?
Um, George Clinton. I'm sorry. The P Funk and all of that, basically, he got nothing. He got ripped off. And all the classics that he did, you know, um, MC Hammer, Ice Cube, they all did songs where, they redid his music and he got nothing off of it. The company basically, Sony or whoever he was with, it wasn't Sony he was with, but whatever company he was with, they got all the rights to his music. he had very bad management. And all those big hits that he did, I mean, he's like the godfather of funk. And he's like a god in the African American community. But yet he makes no money off those songs. Absolutely none. I was flabbergasted when I saw when I saw the VH1 special behind the music. I was flabbergasted. I could not believe how much money that man lost by not having the right management. So again, you look at Mariah Carey, and she's not a dumb woman at all. She knows what she's doing when it comes to stuff like that. When you have people in the music industry that knows how this game works, and they can't get you know, they can't get messed around, those are the ones that make a lot of money because you have to understand the game before you get into it. And a lot of these guys didn't. Point in case, TLC. Pebbles took all their money. And, I kind of agree with her in a sense, Pebbles, in terms of, you should have had better management. You should have known what you were doing. But at the same token, Pebbles knew what she was doing. So to have TLC make those, like Scrub and all the other stuff that they did in the late 80s that we still, listen to today, they made no money off of that music. None. New Edition was another one. You can go on and on of the list of people that you think should be set for life and aren't because they have bad management.
And that makes you understand why these acts have to tour. They got to make their money on the live event tour money because they sure aren't making it on the record sales.
No,
Yeah, you're right.
just because you're in the music business does not mean that you're going to make the money that you think you're going to make, especially if you don't do the right deal.
Yeah, yeah. There's a funny story about James Brown. Um, you had to pay him in full before he would go out on stage to perform live, and you had to put his money in a brown paper bag, and he would sit there and count it before he would perform. And if there was even a dollar missing, James Brown ain't going out there to
Ain't going
perform.
out there. James
So
Brown was a very, very smart man when it came to business in the music industry. I
yeah,
will say that he was extremely smart. He knew what he was doing, and just how the charisma that he had, the talent that he had when he went on stage. No one has come close to doing that except for Michael Jackson, of course.
yep,
But
yep.
Michael got it. But Michael got it from James Brown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Yesterday might be old to some people, but yesterday is what's going to make it today.
Yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it's funny, but just to circle back to what you were saying, if the record labels are already messing these artists over, it is important that that tour money is legit and you
Yeah,
need it in full because we see it even in wrestling at some of these independent events where you get booked for something and you go out there and you perform and then they tell, oh, we didn't make enough so we can't pay you. What? I just worked, didn't I?
that's why when if Bubba and we do these shows where independent, especially if we don't know the people, we tell them right off the bat, you give us up as soon as we get off the plane, we want the money. If we get off that plane and the person who's picking us up, whether it be a car service or whatever person you get to get us, if we don't have an envelope with our money in it, we're going right back on the plane.
Yeah, you have to do business that way
Hmm.
because there's no such thing as working for free. We don't do
No,
that. You know
no.
what I mean? That's crazy. That's
Mm-mm.
absolutely crazy. Listen, I got to ask you something, Devon, because something popped up and a lot of our listeners noticed and called it out. And I said, I got to ask the big man about this because it's it looks unprofessional on the part of the folks who went public and started saying things, and their characterization seems a little off. So let's just jump right in. Let's start with the positive. You and Bubba were at Wrestlecade this past weekend, right?
Right.
And the event itself, in terms of interacting with the fans and things like that, how did the event itself go?
The event was great. It was packed. There was two different rooms that we were in terms of, yeah, one town in one room, one in the other. And I heard that every single um, room was packed. I mean, WrestleCade is always a good event to be a part of, whether you're a fan or whether you're talent. talent is going to make money, and the fans are going to meet a lot of the superstars that they probably never thought they would ever meet. And so it really turned out good. It was sad to say that I guess some people were unhappy with the lines and the unorganization of the event, from my understanding. Um, and there were a lot of complaints about that.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be more organization at an event like that. Congratulations to the organizers of Wrestlecade. You are able to draw big names like the Dudley Boys. Good job on that. You're able to draw fans who want to spend money to see their heroes, and they feel safe enough to be at your event. So good job on that. But when you don't have the place organized and the layout doesn't make sense, when you're not putting the right talents in the right places in the venue, all of these things contribute to bad customer service. And, no one is immune from that. It happens to everyone. But the main point is, WrestleCade, you've been doing this long enough. You guys got to get it together, man. You got to do better than
Well,
that.
well, Duke, one of the things I want to address, and I'm probably sure you want to get to it, was that the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys were supposed to do a photo op. And it was advertised that we were going to be together and doing that. But from my understanding, when I got there, it wasn't announced as a photo op. It was announced as an autograph session. So therefore, when you look at it from a fan's point of view, if you say the Hardys and the Dudleys are going to be doing an autograph signing or session, then what that is telling you that we're already at the table, we're signing autographs. So that was a mess up right there. There were some people that came over to the table looking to have that photo op or whatever. And, there was some discrepancy there. We didn't know what was going on, Bubba, myself, or the Hardys. But unfortunately, uh, the powers that be, Tracy and what's his name? I can't
Is it
remember the name.
Brian?
Brian
Brian? Yep.
thought it was fit to say that the Dudleys were unprofessional. When we weren't unprofessional, we didn't kill it. In other words, we didn't say, okay, we're not doing it. We were told that it was canceled by Brian or Tracy, one of the two. We were told that it was canceled because there was too much confusion on what was going on. We had people standing in line at our table waiting to do the photo op with the Hardys and the Dudleys, and no one can get a straight answer. Everybody was trying to get in touch with Tracy. Nobody can get in touch with him at one point, and Brian as well. So we were trying to get in touch with these people, not me, but the vendors who put this together were trying to get in touch with these guys. And eventually, I guess when they did get in touch with them, it was a little too late. But then I heard, and this is what I've been told, is that Brian, I believe, was the one that said no. If it wasn't Brian, then forgive me. It might have been somebody else that was affiliated with it, but was told that it was canceled and that we weren't going to do the photo ops. So it wasn't on the Dudleys' part, and it wasn't on the Hardys. And I was hearing reports that we were being unprofessional and things like that. No, we weren't. There was even some idiot fan, female and male, bashing me because it was the Hardys, Ric Flair, the Dudleys, and Ricky Morton. We were all taking a pic. Flair wanted to take a picture with all of us, together. Rare occasion, which yes, absolutely. And to get it, and it wasn't private because we were by our tables, and I get that. But there were people snapping pictures left and right, and I know how some people can be, and I'm not going to say the name of this person, but I know how some people can be when you take pictures without getting permission, especially if you get a group picture like that. So somebody reached over and came, like, not close, but they came into view, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa! I was like, please don't take that picture. I didn't want the person to get upset or start going off. And I was looked upon as, Devon's an asshole. He wouldn't let us take pictures. What does he think? He's J-Lo? He thinks he's freaking this and that. But I'm like, no. I was like, I just saved your life. I was like, you have no idea what that would have done if I didn't say something, because the person was ready about to say something, and I grabbed him and said, don't worry about it. I'll do it. Because I know if I do it, I'll calm the situation down. If they do it, all hell's gonna break loose.
Great
So
point. Great point.
so I'm trying to diffuse the situation. So some female got on the chat and was agreeing, yeah, what the hell? He should be happy that somebody still likes him. I want to take a picture with him. And I wanted to say so bad, B, shut up, because you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. I wanted to say that so bad, but I didn't say it. I didn't say it. And our good friend Erica was the one that sent me the snapshot of all of this. So this is how I know what's going on. So, the fans need to realize that there's a reason why talent does things the way they do, because it's not because they're being malicious or assholes or they're being jerks, is that they're doing it so somebody in talent doesn't go off on your ass. Because sometimes, fans do things that they shouldn't do. They get a little over the top and they get overzealous and they think that it's okay to, just because you see us on TV doesn't mean you have the right to say or do whatever you want to us or with us, and not trying to be a big shot here, not trying to be a prima donna, but I'm just saying you have to understand there's rules and regulations to this, and you have to follow it and keep it. You know, this is why sometimes talent gets very angry because of the fact that these rules aren't followed. It's no different than going into an NBA basketball game. You can't just get up if you feel like you get on the court and go, "Hey, Michael Jordan," or "Hey, LeBron James, how you doing?" Shake their hand. You can't do that. There's rules that you have to follow. And some of these fans don't follow it. And that's the issue. That's the problem. So, Brian and Tracy, I've got no issues with them, but Brian even said, now here's another thing that was said. Um, Brian from Wrestlecade, my sons were on the show, and we were told that they wanted us, me and Bubba, to come out there and to do something with my sons. So I said, okay. I'll do it. I ain't got an issue. I told the guy who represented us, Brian Wittenstein, who's very, very good at what he does. And, somehow or another that got squashed because they didn't want to pay us. They weren't going to go into their budget and do that. Now, again, we were supposed to wrestle on the show. That got squashed because of bad business. And now all of a sudden you want us to come out there on your show and go out there for free and not get paid anything. So that got squashed. So I got to after the autograph signing was over, I went downstairs. I went to go see my sons in the locker room. And he said, Dad, he was like, hey, what's going on? I said, good, son. I said, what's happening? No, nothing. He's like, you still want to do something with us? Did you come here to do something with us? I said, well, I'll do something if they want me to. I'll walk you out to the ring. I'll do whatever you want. I said, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay me. I was like, you're my sons. I'll do it. So parents said to me, okay, hold on, Dad. So he leaves, and I guess he goes to talk to Brian. He comes back and he says, oh, Brian said, never mind, forget it. He doesn't want to do it. He's like, your father's a bad father because he won't go out there. He won't go out there and do nothing for his kids. He can go to NXT and do it for Trick Williams, him and Bubba, but they can't go out here and do it for your own son. That's what he's a bad father. I just said that. I said, what? I said, I'm a bad father. So you're saying that I went to NXT to help Trick Williams out, to help get him, me and Bubba helped to get him over in his match, but yet I'm a bad father because I didn't go on your show to do that. When I came down to the locker room and my son told you that I was willing to go to the ring, wasn't even asking for anything, wasn't asking for a dime, but yet I'm the prima donna.
Wow.
And again, we didn't kill the photo op with the Hardys. They killed it. We were 10, 15 minutes after everything started going down, we get told, Dudley's, the photo op got canceled. Don't worry about it. They're not going to do it now. They don't want to do it because they realized that the wording of it was wrong and it gave the fans a different perspective of what it was going to be. When it should have said just photo ops with the Hardys and the Dudleys, but I think it said autograph signings or something like that, which we're already doing at our table. So there was never a room that we could go to do this private session. It was actually going to be done right there in front of everybody. So guess what? You want the Dudleys and the Hardys to get together for a private photo op, but yet you want us to do it at our tables where the fans are, so everybody else can take the picture. The only difference is the individual who's taking the picture might not be able to get into it because he didn't pay for it. But again, you're still getting the rare footage of the Dudleys and the Hardys together. Now tell me how that's right.
It's not right at all. It's
Right.
not
So,
right at all.
I've never had a problem with Wrestlecade. I'm not trying to bury Wrestlecade. I had what 4 or 5 good years straight with them, made a lot of money with them, and it was cool. But for you to sit there and say I'm a bad father because we decided at first, a few months back, you didn't want to pay us to go out there to do anything, and then when I come to the show and tell you, okay, yeah, I told my son, okay, yeah, I'm willing to do it. And Terrence told them, my father said, yeah, he'll come out and walk out with me. Didn't say he needed money or anything like that. He goes, yeah, my father said he'll come out there. And you told him no. You actually told him no. So how am I in the wrong for that? When I went down there in your locker room to speak to my sons and told them that I would be willing to go out there and wasn't going to charge you anything because it was my sons. But I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy for stopping that guy from taking a picture because I knew two of the guys that were in those photos were going to go off. But I'm the prima donna.
I wonder. Think about the lack of decency a person has to put your sons in that position as well. They disrespect you, the father, and your son's got to make a decision. Am I going to sit here and take this, or am I going to risk future opportunities by getting in this person's face and straightening them out? It's a terrible position to put people in.
Well, my
Um,
first reaction, Duke, I'm not going to lie to you. My first reaction was if I see him, punch him right in the mouth.
yeah,
Because I mean, that was absolutely wrong what he said. But then I said, no. I said, I'm not going to do that. Terrence and Terrell have a good relationship with them. So I didn't want to hurt that at all. And then on top of that, they tried to bury my sons in the match that they had. And my sons go, no, that's not how you gonna get mad at us for something that you have a disagreement with my father. So you want
yeah,
to hurt us, but you think by doing what you want to do with us like that, you think that's hurting my father? It's hurting us. We don't do. I'm Terrence and Terrell do not do business according to what I do, and vice versa. So I have a big problem with Wrestlecade. That's the only issue I ever have with them. And they were like, "Well, Devon's not welcome back." Okay, I'm not welcome back, but you're gonna not welcome me back because of what you did and what you said. You were the one that killed the photo op. I didn't kill it. There was no again, I'll say it again. There was no private room for us to go to do that. When you have the Hardys and the Dudleys together, which we rarely get together, that's a special moment. So why wouldn't you have a private room to do it in? You can make more money that way. And the ball was dropped completely on WrestleCade's part.
yeah. I mean, listen, I'll just say this, and I don't know the Brian guy. Um, from what I've heard, doesn't seem like the kind of person I would want to know. But I'll say to Tracy Myers, who I'm familiar with and have interacted with, Tracy, we gotta have a conversation, brother, and we gotta find a way to move forward together. You don't want to not involve the greatest tag team of all time in your event. That doesn't make your event a premier event when you start um, disassociating with people who legitimately are some of the biggest names in the industry. And this is a misunderstanding. You know what I mean? So a simple conversation can fix this, and we need to move in that direction because the alternative, you're just going to have other events that are going to have the exclusive while you're on the outside, and that ain't going to work for you.
Hmm.
O- Over time, that's going to hurt your business because the Dudley Boys are going to make their money and they're going to get their bookings and they're going to be featured. You can count on that. Okay. I'm sure you're going to see them on TV again sooner than later as well.
And the thing
Uh,
about it, I don't mean to interrupt you, Duke, but the thing about it also I want to point out is that, Bubba gets the bad rap a lot of times because of his demeanor and how he's a very ruthless businessman. But in this business, you have to be. People will take advantage of you. There's an old saying that Bubba likes, and I love it. It comes from Goodfellas. Um, the guy said at one point, he goes, "You know why people fear me?" He goes, "No." He goes, "There's two things in life." He goes, "People fear, they're either gonna like you or they're gonna fear you." He goes, "I'd rather have them fear me because if they fear me, they won't disrespect me. But if they like me, they will try to disrespect me." And that's Bubba's motto. And I have to say. That day, with all the confusion that was going on, I think he was the most professional out of everybody that was there. He kept his cool, didn't go off like he probably normally would. He did exactly what Bubba should do in that aspect, and he carried himself extremely well. So they can't sit there and say that Bubba blew his gasket or he was acting a certain way. There was no way, shape, or form that Bubba did anything wrong that day, nor did I, nor did the Hardys.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that. And you know, when people do business this way, then you understand why a Bubba uh, exists and why it's important to have both you and Bubba. You know, you being somebody that people can have a conversation with, we can come back to the table and we can figure it out. And Bubba, if you got to cuss somebody out, they will. But here's the crazy part: between the two of you, I'm more concerned about you because you're the calm one. But when the calm one snaps, all hell's going to break loose. So
I don't
don't
know
get it
about
twisted.
that. No, I like to still say Bubba's the mean one.
Yeah, yeah. You know, but it's that intimidation factor as opposed to the other side. I don't know, man. I wouldn't want to push you to the point where you got to be more Bubba than Devon because that would be terrible. But seriously, you know, Tracy, I'm going to reach out to you personally and try to bridge this gap. You just need to have a conversation with these guys and get back on the same page, and everybody can move forward and do business, and everything will be all right.
I mean,
Um,
again, there's no issues on my part. It's just that you can't sit there and bury me in social media and let these people think that we were the reasons why um, the photo op between the Dudleys and the Hardys didn't work. It wasn't the Dudleys. It wasn't the Dudleys at all. And I think that's something that, needs to be addressed. And, just like the whole Dylan Hines thing, with that whole thing, and I'm not, I hate to bring that up because even to this day, I still keep getting people coming up to me saying, "Thank you so much for exposing him." I'm like, wait a minute. He's been doing this for how long? And why did it take me to expose it and to have people say thank you? I didn't understand that at all. Why was I the one that was, now I'm not going to say brave enough, but I guess that's the word I can use, brave enough to stand up and come on your show basically at the time before we joined forces together to say something about what Dylan was doing. It didn't make any sense to me. And, that's why I just figured, this had to be addressed. And, you know, we're doing very well where we get a lot of good listeners and word travels. And I want the word to get out there that Bubba and I did nothing wrong.
Well, and I'm glad you brought it up in relation to that whole Dylan Hines situation. That's a prime example, because you and I had a conversation before we hit record that first time, and I say I'll bring it up if you want me to bring it up, and you said no, we could talk about it. I'll be completely transparent. We could definitely talk about it, and you
Hmm.
did, and that went viral. And where it went, unfortunately for Dylan and Bobby, is the fact that Devon Dudley's not a liar. And the industry knows that. And so many people stood up and said, hey, listen, say whatever you want, but we know Devon's not a liar. So what he's saying must be true. And that was the end of that.
Hmm.
And to your point, those guys haven't recovered since. Things have only gotten worse for them, especially no one's really heard from Bobby Fulton.
Well, I know
And
Bobby is dealing with some. I know Bobby's dealing with health issues.
yeah, we wish
I
Bobby
know
the
that.
best.
Yeah,
We're not
absolutely,
here
Bobby.
to, you know,
And me and Bobby. I saw Bobby. I was at the Cleveland show because there was a couple of shows before the Cleveland show where we saw each other. We didn't speak, and he came to me at the Cleveland show. I believe it was Cleveland, and he stuck his hand out to shake my hand. I stuck his hand out. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm going to be good, sir. How are you?" I'm not disrespectful in that way. If I have an issue, especially if I watched you growing up. You helped pave the way for tag team wrestling and you and your partner. So who am I to hold a grudge over you because of something that your son did? I'm not going to do that. Nor am I going to be disrespectful. And that's the problem with this new generation. They don't honor respect. Back when we were growing up, it was different. You didn't dare disrespect anybody who was older than you. You showed them respect and because they deserved it, especially if they've been in the business and they help do things to pave the way for you. You didn't do that. And that was the way I was brought up. I was brought up extremely old school. And I got my ass beat when I didn't. and justifiably so. Nowadays they call it abuse. Nowadays they want to get the child services on you.
Well,
I,
we learned valuable lessons, though.
Listen, I told my mother, I said, if child services was really the way it is now, back then, you would have been still serving life in prison for what you did to me.
Damn right. Damn right. It's true. It's true. But it's I appreciate what you're saying there, because one of the main reasons why I started doing these podcasts was for that very reason, to highlight those who've paved the way and remind everybody that, hey, these folks, whether they were the biggest name or not, they contributed to this thing that we love so much called pro wrestling.
Well,
Um,
another thing, Bobby, Duke, I'm sorry, I keep, you know, interrupting you, but because if I don't say it, I'll lose it.
no,
You
hit
know,
it,
I,
hit it.
I hear a lot of guys, young guys nowadays. They're very disrespectful. And certain companies where I'm not going to say any names, the older generation comes and tries to help out the younger talent, and the younger talent's like, oh no, we don't do that. Times have changed. It's not like that anymore. Blah blah blah. I'm like, bitch, shut up. Could you imagine if me and Bubba walked into a locker room and told the Road Warriors, hey guys, this is not the 1980s anymore. We don't do that here. This is ECW. Do you realize what Animal and Hawk would have did to us? They would have beat the fuck out of us.
Yeah,
It would have been bad, but you can't do that nowadays. You can't basically, beat the hell out of somebody for being disrespectful. Back in the day, even wrestling schools, you didn't talk back. Whatever your trainer said, you did. Because if you didn't, you got the shit kicked out of you. And what are you gonna do? Go and call the police? It's a wrestling school, so all they got to do is go. I was teaching them wrestling, and they got a little physical. Ain't nothing gonna happen. You're a bitch. If you're gonna
it's
sit
true.
there and complain about it, I'm sorry. And I don't usually use profanity on the air, but I get so riled up when I hear about the disrespect with the younger generation. It's just very bad. And to see it in the wrestling business is even worse. Growing up, I watched wrestling, of course, and loved the guys like Jake the Snake Roberts as a heel, the Magnificent Morocco, Ravishing Rick Rude, Bobby the Brain Heenan, so many guys who did excellent as a heel. But yet I was never disrespectful where I would come out my face the way some of these fans do about today's wrestlers. It's incredible. It's incredible. I don't believe in giving away the business. I don't believe in letting the secrets out. Even though the secrets are out already, people know. But still, I don't feel that I should be the one to continue to let that out. And I just don't. And I don't disrespect talent. Even to this day, as much as I've accomplished, if I meet somebody like the Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, whoever it is, and I'm in a locker room with them, if I'm sitting down in a chair and they're standing up, I'm going over to them and going, "Excuse me, sir, you want my seat? Please have a seat." That's just the way I was brought up in this business. I wasn't brought up to be disrespectful. You common courtesy, for somebody who helped pave the way for you, and that's just the way it is, and that's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be, indeed, indeed. So again, Tracy, listen, man. Again, we, I'll be reaching out. We'll have a conversation, and then put you back in touch with Devon, talk to Bubba, and you guys get on the same page, because it does need to be that way. Bobby Fulton, we wish you the best. Uh,
Absolutely. Hell, I even
unfortunately,
wish I even wish Dillon Hines the best. Listen, God says if you can't forgive somebody of their sins, how is he going to forgive you of yours? So,
yeah,
again, I don't hate Dillon Hines. I know the things that he's done it was wrong or what have you. I don't hate him, but I just will never do business with him again.
yeah, and it looks like a lot of people are not going to be doing business with Dillon again. I saw something that caught my eye, and I was very surprised to see. There was an event at Zombie Hideout, which is actually here in Massachusetts,
Hmm.
and Dillon had Kurt Angle booked and did a whole Eventbrite and all that good stuff there. So he collected people's money through Eventbrite, and Dillon and the venue must have had a falling out. And the venue said, "All right, well, we're not going to do the event anymore because we have a falling out with Dillon. We don't like the way he does business." Well, Dillon never canceled the event on Eventbrite, so he was still collecting people's money through that website, and people were upset when they finally found out that the event is not happening anymore because they want their money. So Dillon told them, well, go to the venue, go to Zombie Hideout and get your money from them. Well, Zombie Hideout had to go public and state that Dillon was the one who created the Eventbrite. So he is the only one that has access to any money that was collected. And then they actually called Dillon and recorded the call. And on the call, Dillon had to admit, yeah, I sent people to go to you because you canceled the event. And he said, well, you're the one who got the money through Eventbrite. Yeah, but you canceled the event, so you should be responsible for it. This man basically stealing people's money. Okay. So once he found out that he was being recorded at the end of the call, and then he changed his tune and said he's going to refund everybody. I guess January 14th, which I don't know why you have to wait so long to
All
do your
right.
refunds. Because Eventbrite, when you let them know, they'll refund you within 48 hours. So this young man keeps making these posts about how he wants to change his life and he apologizes for doing people wrong and all that, but then he's still doing business this way. Uh, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Dillon Hines, I don't know what kind of journey you're on right now, man, but it's not in the right direction. You need to repent. You need to cut it out. You are destroying relationships that cannot be repaired with the way that you're going, and it's not good, man. It's not good. I mean, I've heard that somebody had to put hands on him a few months ago because of the way he's conducted himself. This guy is he's on a bad path. So definitely wish you the best and hope that things turn around in your life.
Well,
But
I didn't
definitely
know we were going to
stealing
get on
from the
the
fans is
topic of
not the way
Dylan.
to go. I don't know if you want to add
I
anything
was
to that.
mentioning something small, but I didn't know any of this. You know, listen, I wish Dylan the best, and I really hope he can get his life together and really stop all of this because, again, this is not going to end well for him. And, you can't keep doing stuff like this and then think you're going to get away with it. Lose the attitude, lose
The bravado.
thank you. Yes, lose the bravado and then start humbling yourself because that's the only way it's going to work. You're not going to win when you have all these people coming at you as well. You're not going to win. And they're all saying the
Yeah.
same thing. Look, Dylan, I don't hate you at all. If you're listening to this, I don't hate you. I feel bad for you. And I definitely don't hate your father. I think your father's a great guy. Um, you know, don't have any issues with your dad, but I did have that issue with you with what you did that day in Chillicothe. So as far as I'm concerned, you need to get yourself together and stop the nonsense, and maybe life will turn around for you.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. I mean, your father built this business that he's worked so hard to, get everybody to trust doing business with you. And you've kind of eroded a lot of that, which is just unfortunate. All these big names, man. Um, these guys, you heard them on my show, Devon, when I had them on, and Dillon ended up abusing Bobby in the middle of it and all that. But these guys ran me down and did other posts and stuff, running me down. And to this day, I still, it's not my job to repay their ignorance. I leave that up to God, and God has certainly shown what will happen. You know what I mean? When you're not doing the right thing. And unfortunately, those folks are having to deal with that. So I just say again,
And
yeah, what's that?
oh God, I was gonna say, yeah, I've been on the opposite end of that. When you don't do the right thing and you pay for it.
You pay for it. You pay for it. So I don't have, Dillon has created his own podcast and he's gone out of his way to run us down on it. People have let me know about that. And I've never brought it up to you because I just feel like why even go down that road? This guy is just destroying himself. You know what I mean? He doesn't need our help. But again, I just say, Dillon, wish you the best, man. I hope you turn it around because it's not ending well thus far. It's been a very bad fall.
I'll say this, and people, when I say this, they'll know what it means. And for those that won't know what it means, you'll learn. Dylan, I wish you the best in your future endeavors. That's it.
There it is. The line of the day.
That's it. That's it.
Moving on. We had the Survivor Series weekend, which is fantastic. I mean, that's
Uh-huh.
one of the big four pay-per-views of the year, traditional. It's something that even growing up as children, um, this was something that we looked forward to as kids. We always knew that we would have our Survivor Series, watch our wrestling, the different teams, all the big stars going up against each other and things like that. Let me ask you something, Devon, before we talk about this year's Survivor Series. Do you remember when they used to have the intermission?
Do I remember the intermission? Yeah, it was funny because I was just thinking about that. And I remember always looking, believe it or not, even though it was intermission, I remember looking forward to it, but then not looking forward to it because when you hit intermission, that means the second half was coming. If the second half was coming, that means that the pay per view was going to be over. And that's something I really missed about, um, watching, wrestling in the 1980s and stuff like that because you had the first half of the show and then you had intermission, and it was actually a time clock that told you when they were coming back, and that was probably one of the greatest things I remember. And I was just looking at the first ever Survivor Series, 1987, Richmond Coliseum, main event Hulk Hogan's versus Andre the Giant's team. Of course, some of the greats on Hogan's team, uh, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, Ken Patera, The Rock, not The Rock, though, not the Dwayne Johnson, but the magnificent Morocco, the
The original
original
Rock.
Rock.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I remember. I watched it live. I
Yep,
remember that. And the intermission, what was it like? Was it about 20 minutes, half hour? How long was that?
about 20, 15 to 20 minutes it was.
Yeah, yeah, and it was the countdown clock, like you said. Which the good part about that is you could go to the
Mm.
bathroom, you could get another bite to eat. You know what I mean? Stretch your legs. That was the
Right,
whole point.
exactly.
You know, and I'm not talking live, folks, at the arena. I'm talking about at home. You had a 20-minute countdown clock so you could get yourself together so you wouldn't miss any of the action. That was cool. That was a cool feature. I wouldn't. Do you think it would work in this day and age, Devon?
No, just because the attention span of a lot of people, I just don't see it happening because if it's like the commercials. You don't want to do a show with commercials because if you do, it makes you like back in the wrestling war days, WCW versus WWE. You know, you hated going to commercial because if you did, that gave the viewer time to turn the channel and go to the other one. So you didn't want to
Mm.
do that. And even though you're not changing the channel on a pay per view, that's probably about the equivalent to the same thing. So I don't know if it would work. I don't know if it would work now. Although for the old school guys like us, we would love it because it would bring back memories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only that, I mean, look, who can sit down for 4 or 5 hours straight without using the bathroom or grabbing a bite to eat or freshening up your drink? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I don't care who you are. You got to get up and at least stretch your legs. Come on now. So there's a place for it, and I'm gonna put a bug in Triple H's ear. Bring back the intermission, please. That would be fun to experience. So listen, so we have the Survivor Series this year, and overall, I think people felt it was kind of it was in the middle. It wasn't the greatest. It wasn't the worst. It was just a regular show, even though on paper it looked fantastic. One of the highlights, definitely Shinsuke Nakamura taking on LA Knight. They had a kick-ass match. Nakamura with the mist and all this other stuff. He had the black mist. They got the different colors with the mist now, Devon, as you know. You got your red, you got your green, you got your yellow, you got your black. And depending on what color mist you use, it could sting you, it could burn you, it could blind you, it could do all these things. So keeping the poison mist alive is pretty fun. But what are your thoughts on Nakamura coming back and immediately winning that U.S. title again? What are your thoughts on that?
I think Nakamura I think he did a great job. And I'll say this: it's one of those things where, at first when Nakamura came in, when he was in NXT, he was freaking phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Sensation coming over from Japan. I mean, just phenomenal. And then he came to the main roster, and he was being used in a great way at first with Vince when he was in charge. But then somewhere along the way, it got lost, and he basically was. I don't know. I feel he might not have been used to the best of his ability back then. He was. kind of put on the shelf in a sense. And he disappeared. He came back. He disappeared, and now he's back. And I think it's tremendous. I think he deserves a break, so to speak. I think he deserves a chance to run with the title and to put his name back to where it once was, because it seemed like he was being lost in the shuffle at one point. And I'm glad to see that WWE, Triple H is actually giving him the opportunity now, um, to go out there and flourish. Kudos to Nakamura. Very, very happy to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to him. I know that WWE has a big tour of Japan coming up, so for Nakamura to go back home with that title, that'll definitely move some
Oh,
tickets.
absolutely.
Uh,
Him going back to
you know
Japan with the IC title. Absolutely.
that'll move some tickets. So good stuff there. The new champion of the United States, Shinsuke Nakamura. I love that. Interestingly enough, I'm going to fast forward straight to the main event because so much happened in that match. I mean, you had this whole thing with CM Punk joining Roman Reigns, the Usos, and Sammy Uso, as everyone's calling him now, because of Paul Heyman. They got CM Punk to join those guys, going up against the new bloodline. You have Solo and Jacob. You have your guys, Tama and Loa. And then they had Bronson Reed join them as well, who's actually Samoan. Even though he's from Australia, he and his family, their heritage, they're Samoan, which is cool. So, really, really nice matchup on paper, and the execution was solid as well. Punk and Roman, their antics was the most popular thing that happened from that match. In fact, on social media, they've done millions and millions of views, just them posturing with each other and not knowing if they can trust each other, which is really great, brilliant execution on their part. The match itself, in the end, the good guys won. Unfortunately, there were some injuries, and especially Bronson Reed, who's a big dude. He jumped off the top of the cage. He landed basically on his feet as he was doing a splash. And, there seems to be some injury. Triple H said he's going to be out at least for a few weeks. Something going on with his ankles if you watch the replay there. What are your thoughts on a big guy like that doing such a high spot like
Well,
that?
somebody that big should not be going up there and doing it. I know it's impressive, and I know that it looks great, but this is what happens. Point in case, the late great Sid Vicious, WCW
Yeah.
Nitro, going up on that. He went to the third rope, did a
Yeah.
simple jump off the top rope, landed on his feet, and snapped his ankle in
Yeah.
half.
It was pointing in
It
the
was
wrong
pointing in the wrong
direction.
direction. Completely snapped it. It was like
Yeah.
people that big should not be on the top rope, especially the top of the cage. That's just my opinion because things like that happen. That's a lot of weight coming down. He's a very, very big, like you said, a very big man. Not to mention he's an athlete, and this and that. Sure, I get that. But man, there's just certain things you just should not do when you're that size.
And here's the tough part about that. This is the biggest thing he's ever done in his career, right? He's brought into the mix and the biggest storyline in wrestling today, and one of the biggest storylines in wrestling history, this whole bloodline thing, and he fit like a glove. He looks like these guys. He comes from the same type of heritage. He's doing his best work. He's a monster. So he fits. For him to get injured right now is just so disappointing. And hopefully it's not too bad because man, the amount of money and prestige and what could happen to his career on the positive, just being in this storyline, it's so big. It's like, brother, we don't want you injured now. You're just getting cooking. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? And I like Bronson Reed. Did you work with him at all in the beginning of his career, especially when he was down there in NXT?
No, I didn't. I knew Bronson, but I didn't work with him.
He
There
seems
was
like a nice guy, right?
He's a real nice guy, very respectful. That's the one thing I will say about NXT. Those guys are extremely respectful. You got guys like Fit Finley, Terry Taylor, all of those guys that are down there, the coaches, they're gonna make sure that you learn respect for the business and just in general. And that's the one thing about Bronson I love. He's very respectful. As big as he is, he's humble, he's hungry, and he loved to learn. And I remember, like I said, I didn't have his matches, but watching him when I was there, and interacting with him, you could tell he was going to be somebody.
Yeah, and he's getting it done, man. I mean, he's really been knocking it out of the park. He's taken on Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins. When you start looking at his body of work since returning to the company, it's very clear that this guy, like you said, he's hungry, and he's knocking it out of the park every single time. So definitely wish him the best, speedy recovery there,
Hmm.
because I think that at this rate, what he's doing, this guy's a future champion. Like his work, in my opinion, is that good. And as a monster, there's no reason why you can't put the belt on him and have a hot baby face. Eventually feud with him and dethrone him. There's something there. So definitely want this guy to not end up like a Jim Cornette where he blew out his knees after that scaffolding match and that changed his career and his mobility. We want Bronson to fully recover. So hopefully he's all right. Um, I believe Jimmy Uso also had an injury from doing a move. So that those cage matches, those are tough, huh?
Listen, I've been in about 4 or 5 cage matches, and they were never easy. They were very painful.
Yeah,
Believe it or not, people want to say that professional wrestling is a work and this and that, yes, but getting in that steel cage and having that steel rub up against your skin is not pretty at all. It hurts. Trust me when I say it, it hurts.
yeah, yeah. It looked like it hurt. So hey, Jimmy, best to you, brother. Hope everything works out as well because you're back. Um, Everyone embraced Jimmy. This was really the biggest match he's had since coming back. He had that extended period of time off, and Rikishi tweeted out, "Pray for my son" and all that. It's great to have him back in the mix, man. We love him, and you put those guys over big time
Oh,
last episode.
absolutely. I've always said I love the Usos. That I loved working with them. They were great working with them. And one of the great things, like I said, was about it because their father helped me when I was coming up in the business, and it was only fitting that I would help them. So, again, love those guys. I remember when they used to play with my sons in catering, and I was scared to death that they're gonna get me in trouble by Vince. They were sitting up there with Michael Hayes. True story. Jimmy and Jay were with Terrence and Terrell in catering at WrestleMania 19, and I had to go. I had stepped away for a little bit because we had to go over a spot for the TLC match. So I forgot who it was, and I said, "Hey, do you mind watching my sons until I come back?" And the person said, "Yeah, not a problem. Go ahead and do it." I said, "I won't be long." So I go do what do what I got to do. I come back downstairs to catering. Terrence and Terrell, Jimmy and Jay are sitting up there throwing the paper plates like frisbees with Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes is instigating the whole thing. And I'm sitting up there screaming, "Stop. Are you crazy? It's WrestleMania. Stop throwing frisbee plates in the goddamn catering before Vince walks in here. You gonna get me fired. Stop." And Michael Hayes is laughing, goes, "Devon, they're all yours." I go, "What the fuck?" I looked at Jay and Jimmy and said, "Where's your father?" They just looked at me and said, "I don't know." I said, "Oh, great." I said, 10 and 12, sit your ass down. I looked at Jimmy and Jay. I said, "I can't do nothing to y'all, but stop throwing the goddamn frisbees." Every time I see Jimmy and Jay, I tease them all the time about it. I was like, "You guys almost got me fired." They were like, "Devon, Vince wasn't going to fire you." I was like, "Yeah, they would have. If he would have came downstairs and saw you guys throwing plates." He's like, "Devon, you guys just put on a hell of a performance at WrestleMania. You weren't going anywhere."
I love it. See, those are the moments right there, man. That's what the fans want to hear from you, brother. That is good stuff. That is good stuff. That's a great memory because again, fast forward, and the next thing
Just
you know,
hold it in.
you're working with those guys in the ring, which is just amazing. So that's pretty fun. I, you
It
know, I
was
want
great.
I want to run something by you, and I've caught a little bit of heat for this. My opinion on this, you being an expert, you being a legend, you have a perspective that I think we need to hear from.
Okay.
Um, Jade Cargill.
Jay
Jade
Carter. Okay.
Cargill, she WWE put out a big list of she's injured, and somebody attacked her in the parking lot, and she has this long laundry list of injuries, so she's going to be out for the foreseeable future while she nurses those injuries. And it's like, okay, cool, That's the storyline. That's the pro wrestling world. So that's good enough for me. We wish Jade the best. Can't wait to see her when she comes back. Meltzer, Fightful, the same people who have made up their own narratives about you and that whole NXT situation from a few weeks back and what have you. One minute they're saying, yeah, Jade is not really injured. It's just a storyline, what have you. Next minute they're saying, no, she's really injured and this is really happening and this and that. Going around in circles, trying to report on this woman's real life. That's nobody's business. She has a right to privacy. WWE already closed the gap on the storyline, saying that she got attacked in a parking lot, and there's a whole whodunit storyline that's happening now because of it, which is great.
Hmm.
It's good for business. But these humanoids, these quote unquote wrestling media folks, these dirt sheets, they are relentless, and they're charging people money, and they're trying to get clicks, talking out of both sides of their face. But at the heart of it, for me, it's like, hey, these are real people that you're talking about. We don't know what's going on. God forbid she is really injured. You want to sit here and keep speculating and run your mouth and run your mouth. How terrible are you going to feel if you find out that it's really something bad? And we've seen
Right.
it. Look, I think of Black Panther and Chadwick Boseman, and you know, you saw that his body was starting to look different, and then come to find out he had cancer, and that's why he passed away. But how dare anybody sit there and try to dig and pry into his life if he didn't make it public? Leave him alone. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't know what's going on with Jade, and I'm just going to leave it alone, and we'll hopefully she comes back and we see what happens and we move forward. But what are your thoughts on the quote unquote wrestling media digging and trying to force these narratives about folks like yourself and your private health
Mind
situations?
mind your business. I mean, again, there's certain lines that you cross that you should not cross, and that's one of them. If it has to do with their health, leave it alone. It's none of your business. You know, health people, in the hospital, I forgot what they call it, but a doctor can't go and tell somebody else's business in terms of
HIPAA.
their health. HIPAA, yes. The HIPAA laws prevents you from actually going out there and saying anything about anything. Like, for instance, my sons, let's just say they were in the hospital, this and that, and I go to the hospital, I say, I'm demanding to know what's going on with my son. If they're 18 years or older, they're not allowed to tell me. It's because of the HIPAA laws. They're adults. They're old enough
Have
to
privacy.
well, right. So you can't do that. So that's what I don't get with these people. And again, I said earlier that I didn't like to really use profanity and this and that on the show and this and that. And I know when we were talking about the dirt sheet writers, I was using a lot of it. And I remember hearing it back going, "Oh, I could have said something a little bit better than that." Oh God, that was a little rough. I shouldn't have said that. But I was speaking my mind because I was upset. And sometimes when I get upset, the Reverend Devon, he uses profanity, unfortunately. Hell, my mother uses profanity, cusses me out still to this day. And she's a reverend. But no, but it's you just gotta stop, man. Somewhere along the line, it's like, it was like horror movies. I was telling somebody, I said, when you walk like for instance, Jason, when he was in the cabin, it was like I don't know if you remember that. I was like, I think it was Jason Lives or something like that, where they were at Camp Crystal Lake and there was a bunch of kids in the cabin, and Jason walks in the cabin after he done killed like half of the counselors and all of that. He walks in there and a lot of the kids are asleep, and there's one little girl who's in the bed. She has the blanket like over, she's terrified, and she sees Jason. Jason walks up to her and just looks at her. She closes her eyes and starts praying. And then when she opens her eyes, Jason's gone because Jason walked away. He heard a noise, so he walked away. But even back then, I looked at myself. I said, you know what? That'll never happen. Jason will never kill you. They'll never kill a kid. In horror movies, kids don't die. It's only teenagers and adults that die. It's never kids. If you ever noticed that.
Mm.
So, and I noticed that a long time ago. I was like, they'll never do it because it's just certain things you don't do. Killing a kid, you just don't do it. And if you get a movie where you get a murderer like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers that actually kills a kid, That's taking it a little too far for me. That's when I gotta say that's not horror. And there's certain things you just don't do, and that's one of them.
So in relation to reporting on the private health situations of these wrestlers, guys, treat them like human beings, man. You don't have a right. If the
You really
company's not
don't.
putting it out and the person
Then you
themselves not
shouldn't.
putting it out, you shouldn't. You shouldn't be trying to do
Exactly.
that. And it's some of these folks. Well, in pro sports is different. I'm going to tell you how. There's a clause in contracts where certain medical information, teams are allowed to put it out, and they do that officially. It's an official thing. Yeah, so and so's on the injury report. He's having issues with his back. They're allowed to do that because it's been mutually agreed upon beforehand that the athlete is allowing that information. But even then, there are limits to that, right? Now, Devon,
Right.
did you ever have a clause in your wrestling contracts that stated that you have to give up your medical rights and have your information put out there to the public?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so
Never.
there it is. There it is. There it is. So to Meltzer and Fightful, and there's this brother who I respect. He's a real journalist, a guy by the name of Dr. Chris Featherstone. He's been reporting on wrestling. He's taken issue with me for calling him out on this, and I'm just going to tell him, Dr. Chris, look, I respect you. I think you do good work, but I also know you know better as a journalist, as somebody who's media trained, and I'm media trained, so I can say this definitively. You know better. This is private information you're putting out there, whether it's true or not. You have no reason to do this. Those clicks don't matter that much, bro, that you got to go that way. So cut it out, man. We got to hold ourselves to the right standard, because if you love pro wrestling, you don't need to do this.
Now
Anyway,
I like it better when there was no internet. I really do. And I used
yeah.
to hear people say that all the time. When the internet, people get brave behind a computer or their phones and say that what the hell they want to say, but they'll never say it to your face. Because 9 out of 10 times you would get the crap beat out of you if you did. But, you know, um, now everybody hides behind their computer, or everybody, thinks it's okay to do that. And I hate that. I like the old school way of doing things where if you said something, you got the shit smacked out of you. I loved it. That was just the way it was back then.
There were
People,
consequences.
there were consequences for your actions. There was always
Yeah,
consequences.
yeah, yeah. Like the old RVD pick a
I
hand,
think
right?
that, it's one of those, yes, pick a hand. Listen, I'm not going to tell you that story. That story is totally different, but it's crazy how that, I don't want to ruffle nobody's feathers in bringing up that story because I think I did bring it up, but I think I brought it up to you in private.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll leave that alone. We'll leave that one alone for sure. Listen, you got any big bookings coming up, Devon?
I'm going to be in New Orleans. It's going to be on my social media. I'm going to
Okay.
have all of that on my social media on Testify Devon on Instagram as well as Twitter. Again, my Facebook is private for just my friends and family. That's it. I don't allow fans or anything like that on there. No disrespect to you guys, but it's private pictures on there with my kids and things like that. I haven't even posted pictures of my son yet on my new son, DJ. I haven't posted pictures of him yet because I refuse to. My girls, I didn't post pictures until like 2 years later.
Wow.
Because I was very private of it. And me and Alexa Bliss had a conversation about that where she posted a picture of her and Ryan and the baby, but they blot out the baby's face.
Yep. Yep. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. Yeah. 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 Again, here we go again with privacy. You are allowed to have privacy, and I think that some of these folks, they forget that you're real people.
Hmm.
Uh, your needs for your little clicks on your websites or whatever. It's not more important than these folks' privacy, especially when it comes to their family as well. It's just wrong, man. Leave it alone. You know, Devon Academy, right? You have the Wrestling Academy there, training the stars of today and tomorrow. DevonAcademy.com for anybody out there who's an aspiring wrestler. You want to learn from one of the greatest of all time. Go to a reputable school, folks. Don't go to some little rinky-dink joint. Go to a reputable school like Devon Academy, which is right down the street from the Performance Center. So you can't miss that. Definitely, devonacademy.com. We also have the cigar line, right, Devon?
Absolutely, which should be coming out really, really soon and be advertised and all of that. We're just waiting on the people from Colombia who are basically helping to make the cigars and things like that. We're very, very close, and when we do that huge launch, I will definitely be on the show to push it out and ready to go.
Excellent, excellent. We also have 3D automotive detailing.
Yep, 3D
Okay, that
automotive detailing. Yep, we're in Fort Lauderdale, but we go as far south as Miami, and we go all the way up to Ocala and Daytona.
So, folks, you want to get your detailing on. They do paint correction, ceramic coating, so many other different services. Great stuff there, of course.
Absolutely.
We have one birthday shout out this week, Maria Gonzalez. She is a new mom. She's a wife. She is a huge pro wrestling fan. What do you have to say to our friend Maria?
Maria, happy birthday. Many, many more. Congratulations on another trip around the sun. Thank you for all your support. And, it's because of fans like you that make us who we are today. So thank you. And please have a blessed, safe, and happy birthday.
That's right. That's right. Of course, folks, Duke Loves Wrestling on Facebook, on Twitter, DukeLovesWrestling@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Keep your questions and comments coming. We appreciate all of the wonderful listeners of the show who were at Wrestlecade. There were so many of you who were there. So you got a chance to meet Devon personally and get an autograph, share a laugh with him and what have you. That's always cool to hear. So definitely keep those stories coming. And that does it there. Devon, what is the word of the week?
Well, I think I said it best earlier. I think you got it when I said I wish you the best in your future endeavors. So let's just leave it at that and call it a day. Again, Dillon, I wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors. And again, for those that know what that saying's about, will get it. And for those that don't know, you will one day.
Testify.
My brother.
Strictly for the culture. Brothers and sisters, you have seen the t-shirts, the hats, the hoodies, the mugs in the hands of some of your favorite pro wrestling stars, podcasters, and influencers out there. And now it's time. Visit strictlyfortheculture.ca and you too can be part of the movement. Bigger than sweatshirts and commercial success, Strictly for the Culture aims to build with like-minded people and elevate their position in the world through knowledge, self-love, and a desire to unite. So what are you waiting on? Visit strictlyfortheculture.ca. Do it for the love. Do it for the knowledge. Most importantly, folks, do it strictly for the culture.
This is Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Wrestling.